Hi, this is Luis Souza from rawveganpower.com, and I'm really excited here because I have with me today a raw vegan lovely couple, and well, I welcome Ronnie and Minh. I have no words here because I'm so excited to be talking to people like you and who are already in the raw vegan world and especially me with this 63 years of raw vegan food. I would say it's so fantastic. Welcome. It's so nice to have you here. Really.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With us, you're getting a 2-for-1. You get a 2-for-1 special today because you get both.
Yeah.
For the price of one.
That's right. It's a 2-for-1 interview. It's so cool to
Everybody
talk
likes
to
a
you.
bargain.
Yeah, and I love. Well, it's not only me. We love couples and especially couples in this niche because sometimes I get the question, well, show me how to get a raw vegan partner, right? And you are so blessed because you are a raw vegan partner, right? And so cool.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was reading your story and watching the video that you have in ubraw.com. We need to say this. And I was wondering how was the beginning of your relationship because usually women um, fish us, right, men, and they fish with cooked foods, right? But in your case, in
It's so
Brazil,
amazing. It's so
yeah,
amazing. Yeah, it's so amazing. And here's Min to verify everything I'm saying because it almost sounds like it couldn't be true. But I met Min at a wedding, and at the time, I was living with another girl. And I just got to see Min and say hello, basically, because Min came to the town that I was living in from California. We were in Mesquite, Nevada, about an hour north of Las Vegas, Nevada.
right,
And Min had came up from California to go to the wedding. And so I said hi to Min. And again, I was living with the girl, another girl. And so after the wedding, Min went back to California. I didn't hear from Min for 6 years later. But at the wedding, this is really interesting. I caught the garter and Min caught the bouquet of flowers, which is the tradition, in weddings. And so we had our picture taken with the bride and groom. And I put the picture up on my television and I kept it there because it was a nice picture and it kind of reminded me of the wedding and I got to see Min, but no thoughts of romance or anything like that. 6 years later, I got a phone call from the gal who got married, Tweet. And she said, do you remember Min? I said, of course. She said, well, Min is here for a couple days, and I want to bring her over, and you guys can say hello and visit. So
right.
Min came over the house and visited. Now, at this time, I was single. So I was no longer living with this other girl. So I got to talk to Min a little bit. And the reason that Min came to my town was kind of tragic. Min had a young daughter who passed away. How old was she, Min?
21.
21 years old, and she had passed away. And this happened about 6 months or so before you came to Mesquite the second time?
Yeah. Okay.
About 6 months before she came back to meet me the second time in Mesquite, her daughter passed away, and she decided she wanted to move out of this town in California where she was living because everything reminded her of her daughter. And it was just too hurtful for her.
Yeah.
So she came here, and I was showing her around the real estate and where there was houses and apartments and that type of a thing. And we got to talking, and there was a little bit of a language barrier. Min wasn't speaking all that great then. But we had our eye-to-eye communication, and when she left, I took her hand and I said, Min, I have to see you again. And so we talked on the phone, and Min invited me to come down and visit her at her home in California. Now, I'm already raw at this point. I'm already raw for about four or 5 years.
Oh, really?
I'm
You
already
were
raw. I don't have any idea what her diet is. I don't have any idea what her diet is, and I'm falling in love with her. So I go down to California, and we spend a weekend together, and see all the sights, go to the beach, and that type of stuff. And still a little bit of a communication barrier, and I don't know what her diet is yet, really.
Oh,
But
that's
we're
cool.
eating salads and that kind of stuff. And then I come back to Mesquite, and I invited Min to come here. And the next thing you know, Min moves in, packs up, and comes up and moves in. I still don't know what her diet is at this point.
Really?
Really.
That's,
And
that,
she has heard from the gal that got married that I have a weird diet. She didn't know
oh.
raw. She just said I have a weird diet because I'm the only person in this whole town that is a raw foodist. Out of 20,000 people, there's no other raw foodist in this whole area, especially then. And so we get together and we fall in love and we decide to live together. And so I'm telling Min about my diet and showing her, and she's telling me that the raw food sounds weird. She just used weird.
That's
But
funny.
as I'm watching her now over a period of about 10 days to 2 weeks, I notice that she hasn't cooked any of the food that she eats. It's different than the food I'm eating. It's a Vietnamese style of food, but nothing is cooked. And I'm watching her, and I'm just watching this, and I'm not saying anything, because I'm eating the American version of raw food at that time. I'm going back
Right.
now about 12 years, 10 or 12 years. So the raw food was a little bit different back then than it is today. So she's eating a different food than I'm eating, but she's eating uncooked food. And so I told her, I said, Min, you don't have to eat uncooked food because of me. And she says, okay. And so she starts eating a little bit of tofu once a week and a little bit of steamed rice. And come to find out, once we started talking and really learning about each other, she's been eating this way her whole life. And her mother was 100% totally raw. Min is the youngest of eight.
That's so
Min is the
cool.
youngest of 8 children. And so Min grew up on her mother's back, picking out in the fields while she picked the food, making food for the family. Now, nobody else in the family was raw besides your mother,
Yeah, beside my mom.
but some of them are vegetarian.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's how we met. I married the most incredible raw food chef in the world because she has a style that is totally unique to Vietnamese raw food. And so I married her. I get together, we moved in, and it turns out that here I am already raw, and I find this person that's an incredible raw chef. I fell in love with her
Synchronicity.
before I even knew she knew anything about raw food.
Yeah, it's so fantastic. This is synchronicity at its most fantastic way, right? It's so cool. And what I'm really impressed is that me learned raw foods from the essence of raw foods, right? In the maybe in the jungle. And
Tell them you learned how you
could
learned.
could you tell us something about that too, please?
Yeah, because in Vietnam some vegetable is different America. But that time my aunt she have the farm, but she doesn't want to eat anything about the farm that they grow up by natural. But every day I come to her farm, I pick up everything from natural, and I bring home. I eat something. I eat raw like that, uh, mixed with a little bit salt, or look like salad over here.
I
And
see.
sometimes I just steam a little bit and look like a half done, a half isn't done yet. And we eat that with soy sauce or um, something like we make the soy sauce with
She
the,
calls it soy sauce, but it's the sauce that they make themselves. It's not bottled soy sauce
yeah,
that she's talking about.
yeah, like
I
that.
see what you
And
mean.
we eat with
They
steam
make
rice.
themselves. This is
Yeah,
so cool. So they really make it at
yeah.
home.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
She makes her own vinegar. She makes
Yeah,
her own sauces. She makes a lot of sauces based with pineapple,
yeah,
and she'll add some things to it, and she makes all her own sauces. And the funny thing is that Min saves bottles from everywhere, from friends, from neighbors. If she finds bottles, she saves them. So sometimes you'll look at a bottle, it'll say like, something horrible in there, like I don't know, pickled pig's feet, and she's got her raw vinegar in there, or her homemade vinegar in there. So you can't even go by the labels on the bottles in our house.
I
She
see.
just knows what it is by looking at it.
And one other cool thing about you is that, and in this case, Ronnie, is that you are an Essene philosopher. And I learned that the Essenes were raw vegans as well, right? And they
Yes.
have the Essene bread that you can make, and it's raw, right?
Yes, yes. We make a similar version of it. We sun dry it. We make crackers, breads, tortilla shells, those type of things. Hang on one second. You want to go just to hang it up, honey. We make it based on the same way the Essenes did. You know, we take what we do is we take the pulp that's left over. Once a week we'll juice because we're not juicers. We don't drink juice per se.
Right.
But once a week we'll make a batch of juice to get the pulp, and then we'll use that pulp as a base for our crackers with some flaxseed, and then we'll just roll them out and then put them out in the sun. Now we live in the Mojave Desert. It's going to be 105 today.
And that's cool
So we
too.
put crackers out in the morning. This is exactly how the scenes described how they did it. And they say that they put them out in the morning, and then when the sun was at its highest, which is noon, they turned them over. And then at the end of the day, they were done. That's exactly how we do it. If it's winter time, because we do have about 2 months of winter here, where we can't dry them out in the sun, then we'll use a dehydrator. But from now until really the end of October, we'll be able to dry them out in the sun.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, well, I was looking at your blog here, your site. I will share my screen here so we can talk about all this cool stuff that you have here. Well, you told me, Ronnie, that you have this DVD here, Going Raw, that you already sold more than 6,000 copies.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Let me tell you how this all came about, because I never had any intentions of making a raw food DVD or helping people to learn how to make raw food, but I had gone to every source that I could find to learn raw food before I met Minh. In the 4 years before I met Minh, I had gone to Living Light Culinary Arts Institute. Shiri Soya is a friend of mine, and I went to study with her before she really had the school. She was renting places up in Harbin Hot Springs and places up in the mountains in California. And I went up there and I learned from her about raw food. And she had other chefs associated with her, and I invited them down to my farm. And they'd stay with me for a week, 10 days, and I'd learn about raw food. And I was able to feed myself, and I wouldn't call myself a chef, but I could make raw food just about as good as any bachelor out there making raw food at the time. It's come a long way since then. And then when I met Minh, and I, by the way, and I would go to every raw food restaurant when one would open. I was so passionate about it. I would go there to see what they were selling, to find out everything about it. Go to any raw food. I went to the very first raw festivals up in Portland, Oregon, starting 15 years ago.
Could you tell me when was that? I mean, the year.
I can't read. You'll have to do the math, but it was about 15 years ago up in Portland.
15 years ago. Then it was late 90s to be right. Yeah. Okay.
And so,
1998.
then when Minh moved into me and in with me, and I started seeing the food that she was making, and she said, "Well, I'll learn how to make your style." And because she had never heard of spaghetti. They don't have spaghetti in Vietnam. She never even heard of it. And when I told her I make raw spaghetti, she didn't even know what regular spaghetti was, let alone raw spaghetti. She's really, I mean, that innocent. But when she took the for example, the raw spaghetti, I told her, I said, Minh, I love spaghetti so much. My mom, when she was alive, would make me spaghetti 2-3 times a week. Right. And I said, I just love it. But I can't eat regular spaghetti anymore. I make it with zucchini. And so I took her to the supermarket, and I got her a jar of like ragu or some kind of spaghetti sauce. And she held this thing up in the light and looked at it and turned it around, and she was silent. I thought her soul was going to jump out of her body into this jar of ragu spaghetti. And she came home, and she made spaghetti. I'm sorry, Mom, but it's as good as my mom ever made. She made such a delicious raw spaghetti. So when I saw the food that she was making, I said, we have to share this somehow. And then I had a nephew who was a movie director, and I told him about it. And he said, well, I'll come up and help you. We'll put it together, and we'll make a little video of it, and then you can give them away, sell them, do whatever you want to do. And so that's what we did. We made our first DVD, not knowing if we'd sell any. The minimum order you had to buy was 1,000 DVDs to get them duplicated.
Right.
So we didn't know if we would sell 10. We didn't have any idea what the market was out there. This is, I think our first DVD came out, what, about 7 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
But maybe, let's just say between 6 and 8 years ago it came out, we had no idea what the market was. And we were kind of overwhelmed. We went to the Raw Spirit Festival was the first place we went. It was I believe it was the second one. I think it was the second one that they had. We didn't attend the first one because we didn't know about it. We went to the second one, and I think I took 500 copies of the DVDs, and we sold them all out. We sold them all out. And people wanted them, and we didn't have any more. And we sold the people saw the kitchen tool that Ben was using, and they wanted it.
Actually, I think it's I can show here the Kaibao.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how the DVDs came about. It was just an effort to help people to learn about raw food. And
yeah, tell me, please.
Well, Min would be using this tool. Min, how long have you been using this tool in your life?
It is when I'm young.
Since you're a little girl?
Yeah,
she started using this tool when she was a little girl in Vietnam. In Vietnam, every house will have one of these in their kitchen. It's just a standard item.
Really?
And it's basically a food processor that you hold in your hand. She can make any kind of a cut that you can make with a fancy food processing slicer or those like yeast slicers.
I was impressed because in the video you show that you can even cut corn.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. And so people said, "Where can I get one?" And you can't, because in Vietnam, every village has a different person that makes them, and they're all different. And some villages, they grow a lot of sugarcane, so they make a bigger one and a heavier one. It doesn't really work for vegetables. But Min, where she lived, they were mainly based around growing vegetables. So the Kai Bao in their village is perfect for fruits and vegetables. And so we imported them. We never intended to have a business. Neither one of us wants to be in business. I don't want to be in business. Min does not like being in business at all. She'll tell you. We're not doing this to make money, although everybody would love to make more money, us included. But that's not our purpose. It's not the reason we're doing this, and it's not the reason we got started. So, and that's where our products come from.
But anyway, people are loving to buy your products, and that's so cool, right?
Yeah.
And actually, you have another thing here. You have something for noodles. Like, let me show.
Yeah.
There's a little noodle tool that one Min designed herself.
Really?
Yeah, she designed that herself. It's basically used to turn coconut meat from the young coconuts into noodles. And you can also use it on zucchini, but if you're just making, say, pasta for yourself and you don't want to get out of a machine and make a whole lot of pasta, you can just scrape this on a zucchini and you'll have some noodles.
I got you. Now I understand how it works. So interesting.
And so she designed it, went over to Vietnam, found somebody to make it.
Yeah, I found somebody.
And then same thing. We offer them to people. We sell them. We sell them as inexpensive as we can. And the best thing about these products is not that we're getting rich, because we're not. Because everything that we make with raw food, we invest in raw food. We give away a lot of things to anybody who needs it, that can't afford it, to anybody we think we can encourage. But anyway, Min made the tool, she designed the tool, and the best thing about it is it's the people that we meet. Because if I would to advertise all over Google and YouTube, come join us, like us, people won't pay attention. But they want these tools, and they're raw foodists. So they come to our website, and we tell them when they buy our products, we're going to put you on our mailing list for our DVDs. We don't send out, junk mail or advertisements to people. This is our passion and our hobby. And so the best thing about these products, and they're selling quite well, is that we're meeting raw foodists all over the world. We've had these tools go to China, of course, Australia, all over Europe, France. We sell more raw food tools in France than we do in the United States. And I can't understand it, but they just keep ordering them by the batches over there. There must be a thriving raw food community in France, because one lady buys them from us and distributes them over there.
And I think it makes it easier to make the noodles, right? As I'm seeing here, it's so simple.
Not only easier. It's not only easier. There's a philosophical component to this too. When you're making the food in your hand, contact with the food, eye on the food, It's different than turning a machine.
Yeah.
The whole experience is different. And when you make food, it's a proven fact that your thoughts will go into the food. It doesn't mean they leave your body and they go into the food.
Right.
It means you'll make the food more tender. You'll make it more lovingly. You'll make it more beautiful because you're in touch with it. And that's what hand tools do, not just Min's tools, but any hand tools. When you're using a hand tool, a knife, when you're using just a knife instead of a food processor, the food tastes different. Min hardly ever uses a food processor. She likes to...
Yeah, I like to chop more than I use
You
it.
prefer to cut everything, I see.
Cut it, the juice from the food, they come out by natural, they don't make messy. But you put on the what?
Food processor.
Food processor, they make the messy, the juice, they come out, so you cannot mix anything.
It degrades the food a little bit. It's just that principle that, just like raw food is about, people ask me all the time, you know, what's raw, what's not, should I take supplements, should I do this? And I say, you know what, raw food is so simple. It's just the closer you get to pulling it from the earth, picking it from a tree, the better off you're going to be. Same thing with making the food. The closer you can get to doing it with your hands, the better off you're going to be. You're going to make portions that are going to be right for you rather than making large batches of things. It just works out that way. And there's a need to make things in machines if you have a restaurant or you're feeding a lot of people. But just for the aesthetic value of the food, it's always going to be better if you do it by hand.
By hand.
You got that tool in your hand.
And actually, the spiralizer is so... It's not natural, as you are telling.
But it makes great noodles. They make great noodles.
Yeah, that's one you can use for the party.
You're having a party, a
lot of people, you do faster more than you use by hand.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, and then when you take care by yourself, you use by hand faster. You don't need to wash too hard, and you don't need to do so make so.
She's saying when you use it with your hand, the hand tool, it's just so easy to wash. You just run it under some water. It's so easy. It's so easy to clean. So easy to dry. It just makes it a lot easier. But like next week, we're doing a conference in Las Vegas, and we're going to feed 60 people. And so we're going to make some spaghetti for them along with other things. So we can't make it by hand. We'll make some things by hand to show them how it's done. But then to do it quick, we'll use the machine.
Right. And then you have something really cool here I want to show, because I was really curious about Min's exercises.
You want to tell them about it, Min?
Yeah, I'd love to hear about that as well.
I'll just tell you one quick thing before she starts. You see it's spelled D-E-D-A-N-G. But this is how. But in Vietnamese, it's pronounced Ye Yang.
That's easy.
Ye Yang.
Ye Yang, that's easy exercise. Because I go to temple and meditation over there. And the monk, they teach me how to do it because the monk, they sit not a single hour.
The monks sit so long that they use these to keep their backs limber.
Yeah, so that's why I learned from that. And I tell you, I have some idea with my husband. This one really good for your back, very good for your feet, where you're very good for your
whole body.
Whole body. So that's why I try to talk with my husband better make a DVD, and if some people need a thing and we can give, and some people want to order,
and it seems to be good for the joints as well, right?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I watched him doing it for about 6 months, and then I picked it up and I started doing it. And I just said, wow, this thing really loosens you up. It's just like the monks have been doing this for thousands of years. They use bamboo poles. We use PVC poles because it's just easier that way. You can't always find the bamboo. But basically what she's saying is she learned this from the monks, and then we asked the monks permission to make the DVD. And
and they gave you the permission.
They gave us permission. And with our guarantee that we would give away as many as we sell. So we do. We don't, when we sell them, we also give them away. We give them away whenever we can to whoever we think could use them and want them. And we've had some interesting experiences traveling on the road at rest stops where we get out with our poles and we start doing the exercise. And I think they think maybe it's a terrorist attack or something. We get all kinds of attention from people.
And one thing that is cool in this video as well is the place, the desert. Is it
That's our farm. That's
what?
our farm.
That's your farm. Oh,
Yes.
so beautiful, so beautiful, so beautiful. The desert. Oh,
It's a little oasis in the desert. If you can see on the picture there, right
oh,
behind,
I will do it again. Sorry, I will come back there. Yeah.
right behind Minh. If you're looking at Minh to her left, you can see a little bit of trace of the river. We
Right.
live we live in the middle of the Mojave Desert in a valley called the Virgin Valley, and that's the Virgin River that comes right through the valley.
So beautiful.
It's an amazing place.
I am in Brazil, you know, and this reminds me movies that I saw with cowboys in this kind of sceneries. So
Yeah,
beautiful, so beautiful.
yeah, yeah. We play cowboy and Indian. Minh's the cowboy, and I'm the Indian.
That's good. Yeah, I can imagine you doing that in the desert, Mojave Desert. And well, what would be your first advice for someone wanting to begin being raw vegan?
Yeah. Well, Doug Graham said it the best. I was with him at an event about 5 years ago, and we spoke right before him. And he said that people ask him all the time, how do I start a raw food diet? And he said, start eating raw food.
That's cool. I
And
love that.
really, what we're all about is simplicity. I like to tell people when they ask me, I don't force my opinions or ideas on anybody, but when people ask me, I tell them what I honestly feel. And I'll just tell you as if you were just asking me, Ronnie, I'm thinking about starting a raw food diet. What should I do? I would say, Luis, first of all, don't pay attention to any raw food person that you hear talking about raw food on the internet or lecturing about raw food or raw food gurus or people that are telling you about raw food. Just go to the supermarket, go to the fresh produce section, find the things that you like and start eating them. Drink only water. Even if you can just do this for 5 days, just see if you like it. Don't drink Coca-Colas, don't make juice, don't go out and buy bottled smoothies or anything like that, coffee. Just drink water. Every other living creature in the world drinks only water. If it's good enough for every other life form on this earth, it's probably good enough for us. And so I'd say just only drink water and keep it simple. And eat the things that you like. If you don't like carrots, then don't eat carrots. If you like watermelon and it's hot, eat watermelon all day long. But keep it simple. And then once you see if this agrees with you, then go out and start looking at some information. Then you can learn how to make more extravagant things. And you can start listening to information. You'll be able to sift out what's true and what's not true. Because the unfortunate reality right now is that for a person that comes into the raw food movement, they're going to get gobbled up by marketers who are raw food personalities selling supplements and things like that. And they're going to have a diet and they're going to tell them they need all these things. And most of these things are not only not beneficial, they're harmful for a person starting out a raw food diet. So my advice to someone would be keep it simple, as close to nature as possible. If you can't get it out of your garden, then see if there's a farmer's market. If there's no farmer's market, then see if there's a Whole Foods or a decent supermarket. If there's not, maybe there's a co-op in your neighborhood. But just get as fresh as you can. Keep it simple. Eat the things that you like. Make a big salad every day. Snack on fruit all day long. You'll be able to survive. Just look at it like you got dropped off in Russia and you don't know a word of Russian. You'll survive. You'll learn how to you'll learn how to talk. So now you've been dropped off in a new world where you can only eat uncooked fresh food. You'll figure it out. And if you don't, it might not be for you.
And you were talking now, speaking now, and then I realized something that it's a curiosity for me, because you mentioned that before meet me, you were already a raw vegan. Could you tell us about your story, Ronnie? How your life was before being raw and how it turned out to be and so on?
Well, I grew up eating the standard junk diet, and I ate it all. I ate everything. My parents ate what they thought was healthy, but it was junk. It was all garbage. And then I went to college, and I went to college to study philosophy at the University of Nevada. And the very first philosopher ever known is a gentleman called Zarathustra, and he was a raw vegan.
Oh,
And
really?
so I started, listening and listening to his words, and I kind of thought about it, and and I became vegetarian based on what the teachings that he had. And at the time, this was the hippie days, and so vegetarianism it was kind of like raw food is now. It was the thing. It was a new thing, being vegetarian. That raw food wasn't even really talked about then at all. But again, studying Zarathustra and studying philosophy, I began to see that a lot of the great philosophers were vegan, vegetarian, raw, without knowing what raw food was. Min's mother didn't know she was raw.
Right.
And so I became a vegetarian at about age 22. Go ahead, honey. She's got a little allergies right now.
No
I
problem.
became a vegetarian at about age 21 or 22 while I was in college. But I was a junk food vegetarian. I was eating a lot of cooked pasta, a lot of fried rice, a lot of stuff like that.
Right.
And I stayed vegetarian, not vegan, but vegetarian. I ate cheese and pizza and all junk, but I stayed that way for many, many years. And then I wanted to open up later on in my life.
Right.
After I was successful in a career, I wanted to open up a vegetarian fast food restaurant. So I started networking with some business people, and a girl that I had known all my life, who was a very, very astute business person, told me about. She says, "Have you ever heard of raw food?" She says, "Maybe you want to open up vegetarian and raw." And I says, "I don't even know what is raw food." And she started explaining to me. She says, I have a friend who's going to open a raw food restaurant in Las Vegas. And it turned out to be Giuliano. Have you heard of Giuliano? He's a famous raw food chef.
I think I heard about him.
He had the first modern day raw food restaurant. There was one back in the 30s somewhere in California. But
Really?
Yeah, it was a very famous one, like a spa, but they had raw food. And I can't think of the name right now, but it's kind of like it sounds like something from outer space. Really, I read a lot about it. It's a nice place. But anyway, she started to tell me about this. So Giuliano had the first modern day raw food restaurant up in San Francisco.
Okay.
And so his sister and this gal were going to open one in Las Vegas. And so my friend, business lady, took me to talk to them. They told me what raw food was all about.
Okay.
And I was fascinated. I said, wow, this is really exciting. And so I said, I'm going to give it a try. And so I gave it a try, and here I am 14 plus years later. I shouldn't say I have never had cooked food, because a couple months ago I had such a craving for potatoes that I had Min steam me some potatoes, and I ate, but we kept the potatoes way above the steam, and I ate some potatoes. And but other than that, I've been raw for 14 years plus, a little over 14 years.
And the health went better, right?
The what?
Your health.
I've always been healthy. I mean, we're both 63. I'm 63 and Min's 63. She's actually 64 in Vietnam, because in Vietnam, the day you're born, you're considered one.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
they count from your mom has pregnant.
Oh.
They count from that day when you get out. It's say 1 year already. So in Vietnam, I'm 64.
But here she's 63. So we're both 63, and I've had a lot of injuries in my life, but I've never had really any illness issues.
Fantastic. And another curiosity: were you born at the same day?
Were we born on the same day? No.
Yeah, because you have the same age. You were raw vegans before meeting each other.
And I am younger than him. Is
6 months. She's 6 months younger than me.
Okay.
I like the young ones.
Well, and here it comes a question that I make to all my guests. Maybe you already know it. Maybe this question won't make sense to me, because was always a raw vegan. But the question would be like that: before, if you compare yourself before being raw vegan and after being raw vegan, what would be your raw vegan power? Your raw vegan power.
I'd say he's
In
asking.
one sentence, please. In one sentence.
I'm just explaining to Min.
Yeah. Okay.
He's asking what, since I started eating raw food, is the change, the biggest change? Is that what you're asking? What's the biggest change?
What would be the raw vegan power? Because usually people have they feel such a difference on this diet that.
Oh, okay. What's the power? What, since I eat raw food, what power do I have? Like, can I see better, or can I think better?
That's
or
right.
can I run faster? I'm going to say, and then if you want the answer, you can. If you don't understand, you don't have to answer. But I'm going to say in one sentence that since turning raw, I've experienced phenomenal energy and clarity.
Fantastic. So your raw vegan power is phenomenal energy and clarity. Great.
How about you, man? What does raw food give you?
The raw food give me energy. Look like I feel like we not strong like some people. They eat regular food like meat or everything. They so strong. They do strong like that. But after that, they really tired. Like really tired. But we just like that keep go and go in the same way.
We keep an even out
Even.
energy.
Even like that. But we
I understand what you mean.
keep like that for longer. And then.
Yeah, and now, I mean, you are saying something really interesting because I think most people, when they eat cooked foods and meat and other stuff, they really feel tired afterwards.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
did that. And I think most people do it, and they don't realize that they don't need to feel tired after eating. It's
Yeah.
crazy because you want to get energy, and then the food takes energy from you.
Well, it's so obvious. That's why it's not only me, but everybody will get energy and clarity. It's because when you stop having the body is unbelievably resilient. It can do so many things. I mean, the parameters of human capabilities are almost unbelievable what we can do. I mean, there's people that can stay underwater for long periods of time, people that can run up mountains, people that can do unbelievable mental and memory calculations. It's unbelievable what the body can do. But everything has its limits. And when your body is trying to has to spend all its energy and intelligence to keep you alive from the poison that you're putting inside it, it's using up that energy and intelligence. And when you stop all that, you still got all that energy and intelligence. Now it can be used for other things that are more important and better.
Right. And much better than only digesting, right?
Not even digesting. It's just eliminating, trying to figure out
Oh,
where to
sure. You are, yeah. You can certainly do a much better use for this energy, and we can feel it, and we can share, and we want to share it. And I think that's the way you are doing.
I mean, imagine you're driving a car, and you're driving cross country in a car, and you start off by yourself, and you see a hitchhiker, and you pick them up, and then you see another hitchhiker. Pretty soon you got 18 people crammed into your car. Well, you're so overloaded, your car's using so much energy, you got to stop and get gas every 5 miles. Throw those people out. Get out. Let them walk. Who cares what happens to them? Get back in your car by yourself and start using that gasoline for yourself instead of everybody else.
I love that. Thank you. It's a very good metaphor. And that's what happens with people. And they don't realize, well, we are here to tell them, right? To spread this message.
Set examples. I've given up on trying to tell anybody anything. I don't want to tell anybody anything. Min and I don't believe in telling anybody what they should do or what we think we should do because we don't know. Doctors don't know. Scientists don't know. Nobody knows. Right. It's up to the individual. We show people what works for us. If they want to take some part of that and it works for them, hey, that's wonderful. But we don't tell people what to do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing what you are doing. It's really a mission that you are accomplishing here, and I think you are making thousands of lives better with your message. Thank you so much. I'm really honored and excited to have you here today, and I thank you so much for taking the time to be with me here, and I really appreciate that, Ronnie and me. And I really admire your work, the work you are doing, and your story, everything. Thank you so much. I really
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
Thank,
thank you for
thank
giving
you
us
give us the Thai interview.
thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk
Yeah.
to your viewers, and it's
Thank
fun
you.
to talk. You're smiling, we're smiling, we're having a good time.
Thank you so much. I had a great time here with you today. Well, and you who are watching, don't waste another minute. Go now to Ubraw,
UB,
UB.
it's UB raw, like I be raw, you be raw.
Oh, now I got it. I didn't get it before. UB Raw. Thank you.
And I will.
UBRaw, then ubraw.com. Go there now and see all the great products that you can get from Ronnie and me. And you can even get in touch with them as well. Go there, ubraw.com. Thank you so much, me and Ronnie. It was a really pleasure to have you here today. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.